You know, a study done in Great Britain a few years ago indicated that around 70% of British people say they have no intention of ever attending a church service for any reason. Not at Easter, not for marriages, not for funerals or Christmas Eve services. It's not that they're boycotting the church, just that they don't see the rhythms of their lives ever taking them into the church. What that means is that if you're depending on the quality of your church product, the quality of your weekend services to win people, well, it's not going to work because they're not ever going to be there to experience it. Now, we're not quite there in the United States yet. We're not where Great Britain is. A much higher percentage of people in our country are willing to come to the church for things like, especially like Easter and Christmas Eve services. In fact, more people enter the search word church on Easter week than any other week of the year. But studies show that we are trending closer to places like Great Britain every year, which means if we don't begin to equip people to carry the gospel outside the church, we're going to lose all audience with the majority of people in our culture. I think what we're going to see in the future is our few mega churches that put all their focus on weekend awesomeness start to fight with each other for a larger piece of a rapidly shrinking pie of bored Christians. But see, for those of us who want to reach the rest of the culture, that 70% of people who aren't even thinking of coming to a church building, well, we got to think about growing the pie. And that means equipping people to carry the gospel outside the church, to become effective soul winners to people in their neighborhoods, their schools, and their workplaces. Yeah, the mega church can afford to pull off some amazing special effects on stage, but any church, whether it's 50 or 5,000, can and should teach its people to go out as disciple-making disciples. In fact, get this, studies confirm that the average new church, when you plant a church, a new small church, it gains nearly 2/3 of its new members from the ranks of people who are not attending any worshiping body. Churches that are over 10 to 15 years old, by contrast, 80 to 90% of their new members come from transfer from other congregations. The average Baptist church, and that's the network of churches I belong to, the average Baptist church baptizes 3 people per 100 members. But a new church plant baptizes 12 people per 100 members. That's 4 times more effective. Plants create opportunities for young leaders, new leaders to lead, and helps develop them in a way that's not always possible in established churches. We hear this all the time. I remember there was a girl in our Summit College ministry who went to a church that we had planted, Center Church in Charlottesville, Virginia. She was an introvert. She always struggled with evangelism. Her plan was to go with this church plan and just serve and be a part of the church. But you know, there's no such thing as just being a spectator on a church plant launch team. Launch team training really emphasized evangelism and building relationships with non-Christians. Well, shortly after this training, she was at a wedding and she met this guy who was living in Charlottesville. So she invited him to church. So he came with her. He started to attend regularly. He got saved, became a believer. Well, now this guy's on fire, wanting to reach his friends. And at the next Easter service, he brought 25 people with him. You see, in a more established church, she might not have been challenged as clearly or felt the need as deeply to engage with the mission personally. Again, our studies show that for every one leader, every one member we send out, there are about 20 new people that are worshiping in the kingdom. What I'm saying is that church planting is a more effective way of reaching people than just growing a big mega church. I mean, do both if you can, but planting is your most effective play.